Hi there, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while since I've done a video, but I recently got a JU-06A and I love it. It's so good, so good, and it's really inspired me to sort of create a couple of new videos actually. So the main reason that I wanted to make one here is because there's this sound that comes with it, which I absolutely love. It sounds like this. Sounds so fat, so detailed, and I really wanted to recreate it. So I'm gonna, done my best job to sort of recreate it. So I thought what we'd do is I'd kind of like show you how I've done it, and then we can talk through it sort of step by step to see if it's possible to recreate it. So on the JU-06A, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's kind of based on the old Roland JU-06 and JU-60. So on the side on here, you've got a switch that flips between the two models. The major differences between them were the digital DCO and the filter. So they're both slightly different, but they shared a lot of the same components. But the 60 in particular has got this really fat sound. And if you, like on a lot of synths, if you press the manual button, it basically changes it from a preset to whatever the controls are. So if you're, so whenever you press the manual button, sometimes if the controls are all over the place, you'll press it and you'll get a sound that doesn't sound anything like what's going on. But just to kind of show you, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play that sequence with the preset patch, and then I'll flip between the manual, and we'll see how close I've managed to get it. So have a listen to this. I think mine might need to be a little bit brighter, so I'm just going to tweak that frequency. Okay, so it's not 100% there, but it's pretty close, and it's close enough for us to start working with it. So what I wanted to do is kind of like, let's try and recreate it from scratch. I'll show you how I did it. And I think recreating presets is a really good way to sort of learn how to make synth sounds for yourself, because you get an idea of what's going on. So I'll show you kind of how I listened to the sound and tried to sort of recreate it from what's going on. So we're in manual mode, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to blank the settings to be sort of a complete sort of flat saw wave. So I'm going to take off the effects. I'm going to set my envelope to be completely open. Amp is all the way up. Keyboard tracking in the middle, and the LFO down. Envelope control in the middle there. Resonance down. Frequency all the way up. Noise down. Sub down. Pulse width modulation down. Sub oscillator off, and LFO flat. So the sound that we've got here now is just a square wave. Okay, so we're starting with our sound. Sounds really fat. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take off the effects. So they make a huge difference, those. The Junos had an amazing chorus circuit on them that was it was quite noisy actually. If I turn it on, if you've got headphones on, you can hear how much hiss is on there. This particular thing, the Roland Boutique series, does model the hiss that's on there, but you can turn that off in the settings if you want. But I quite like it actually; it's quite good. So we've taken off the effect, and we can see from here that the range is set to be 16 feet. And we have a pulse width wave going, and we also have a sub oscillator wave going. So we can go back to our manual sound. We can make sure that the sub oscillator is on. And obviously straight away ours is much brighter. So we're just going to pull the frequency down of the high low pass filter. So it's not the same yet, but we're getting there slowly. So what else is going on? If I take out the two waveforms that have lit, have we got anything left? You can hear that. There's some noise going. So here we've got a bit of a noise circuit sort of going on, and we can also hear that there's a bit. It gives us a clue of what's going on with the envelope. So we can hear it's closing. So if you've watched any of my other videos where we talk about the filter section, you can hear that. So we want to make sure that we're starting at a brighter point and closing it down. So let's go back to our manual sound, and I'll just turn off the sub oscillator and we'll crank up the noise. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we've got our envelope going like that. So we want to have it something like that. So we've got quite a short decay, and we also want to bring in a frequency. So just going to flip back to my thingy sound. The only annoying thing is that we have to keep turning off things, but okay, that's a bit similar now, so that's not too bad. So I'm going to bring back in my 2 waves. Sorry, subwave. Put on my effects. It's okay, but bring the noise level down. Let's try it with a sequencer. It's not bad, but it's not quite there. So I'm also going to go back and listen to, on the preset, let's take out the sub oscillator, and we'll pull the noise down for now without the effects on. I'm just going to listen to this pulse width wave. So again, you can kind of hear there. So pulse width modulation, I'm going to do a separate video talking about that actually. But we can hear that this is sort of the waveform sort of closing. So you can hear it kind of starts out in one kind of sound, and then as it goes on, it kind of widens out. So we want to make sure that that's going in the same way. And what's quite cool about the Juno actually is because the pulse width, you can have it controlled by either the low frequency oscillator. You can have it in manual mode, which means that, so sorry, just to go over that, if it's on LFO, so if I crank up the LFO, the width of the pulse width will change in relation to the LFO and the speed of that. Or you can have it set on manual, where it'll just stay on a fixed value until you change it. But also on this one, you can have it change by the envelope. And I kind of think on the preset, that is what's going on here. Because you hear it sort of like it opens and it closes, but it doesn't sound like it then reopens after it. So it doesn't sound like it's the LFO. I think it's an envelope, and you can see it's going in that same pattern as the envelope. Like. So I'm going to set that for what we've got going on. So on our manual one, we've got it set on the envelope. So we'll see how that sounds when we bring back in the sub oscillator. And a bit of that noise. And our effects. So we're pretty close there. I think I've got a little bit too much noise. So the other thing I do is try going back and forth without having the effects on. So if I go back to the preset, take off the effects. So straight away there, I can hear I've got too much resonance going on. Because if you can hear what's going on in mine, if we go back to as soon as if I go from the preset and we play it, it's got this kind of chunkier bass sound. But then as soon as I flick it over to mine, you can hear there's a bit of a quack at the sound, which makes me think I've got too much resonance. So this is the preset without the effects. So that's kind of pretty close now, actually. I think we're actually almost there. So One thing to just note about the effects is how that they've got them on the preset. So if we go back to that, take off the delay. So the chorus. So on chorus mode 2, which has got a lot of modulation on it. But they've also got this very short delay going. So it's a really, really subtle effect, but it does add a bit of a depth to it. And I have to say, I kind of cheated with this a little bit because you can see what the settings are. So of there, the level of it was set on 3, the time was on 3, and the feedback was on 4, sorry. So I actually just cheated a little bit and copied those, but that's okay. Because we're not getting judged for it. The only other slight thing that I can hear on it is I think on theirs ones they've got a slight amount of tack actually on the envelope at the front there. So I'm just going to add a little bit on mine as well, just a tiny amount. Almost so, Mitchell, look. Only a tiny amount, really. And there we go. So it's not perfect, but it's a pretty close thing. So there we go. I hope that's been interesting. I personally found it really useful when I was learning how to use synths in sort of trying to recreate presets, because I think it really hones in the skills. It forces you to properly listen to sounds and see what's going on there. And that's what I wanted to do with this one, is to try and sort of like take a sound, take it apart a little bit and see if you can figure out what it is that it's doing. And then using sort of the knowledge that we've looked at in the other videos is how then you can apply that to sort of recreate a sound like that. So if you found it useful, please give me a comment, and yeah, I hope I'll do a couple more on these things. I know I don't put them out too regularly, but they're good fun when I get around to doing it. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Cheers. Bye bye.